Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I got to speak to the amazing voice actor and coach, Ryder. We talked about how he started in the voiceover industry, finding the right coach. Being a voiceover coach, is your brand or performance more important? And some amazing tips and tricks you don't want to miss. Also, we talked about being the voice of the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. So sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. All right, coming on the show now, I am so excited to have my next guest. You have heard his voice on the Discovery Channel, National Geographic, Animal Planet, Smithsonian Channel, A&E, Travel Channel, Food Network, TLC, Outdoor Channel, HGTV, NBC, CW, Fox Sports. Let's face it, everywhere. But we've all been probably more geeked out hearing his voice introducing Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Ryder, welcome to Behind the Audition podcast. How are you doing today?
Curt, I'm doing phenomenal, man. Thank you for the opportunity to come on and speak today.
Oh my gosh. I mean, all those credits, I mean, that must geek you out too, hearing all those, right?
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, it never gets old when you book something new that's big, you know? And what's interesting is that all of the stuff that I used to think was big for me, I now look at in a different way because, your career trajectory sort of, it changes, sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. But, like I look back on, it wasn't 8 years ago that I had never done a promo in my life.
Yeah.
And so a lot has changed in a little bit of time. And the problem with most people today is that we're surrounded by instant gratification because of our phones. We need it all. We need it all right now.
Absolutely. Well, one thing, you have that voice though, too. You have that distinctive voice. You are going to be the next Don LaFontaine, I believe. And I might make it go, but you have that voice that, that's Mark. So, I mean, how does that make you feel that we know your voice now?
So I was at VO Atlanta recently, first one in like 3 years. And it was really good to get out and actually like see colleagues and press the flesh. And it was weird for me because the last time I went there, which was like 5 years ago, I was nobody. Okay. And now people are speaking to me with the same reverence as like Joe Cipriano. And I'm like, no. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy yet. One day that's fine. But until then, we are just colleagues and it's all cool.
Yeah, man. I love it. So let's go back in time. And, we all have a story about how we got into this industry. What was it that, kind of made a little light bulb above your head go light up and say, this is what I want to do? When was it? And what made you want to become a voice actor?
Well, interestingly, it was necessity. Because I was a major market morning show host for many years all over the country, markets like Denver and Minneapolis and Kansas City. And I moved a lot. My then 11-year-old had moved to and lived in like 9 different homes. And because, radio was it was not going through a good time. And I just felt like a shitty dad. Are we allowed to swear in the podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I felt like, honestly, I just felt like a bad dad because I was not providing stability, in any way, shape, or form. And I had a little come to Jesus moment, literally, where I sat with God and said, how can I use the gifts that you gave me, but just in a different way? And back then, almost 18 years ago now, like voiceover from your home was not a thing. Okay. Like it is an acceptable everyday thing today. It just wasn't a thing back then. So I didn't even really, I dabbled for a couple of years. It was in the beginning of pay to plays were just starting to sort of roll out. And, so I dabbled a little bit, but I never thought, I always thought that it was just going to be a compliment to my career. Right. And then I got to the point where I'd been in it for about 5 or 6 years, and I felt like, wait a second, there there actually could be something different here. And my disgust of the industry was continuing to grow. And I mean, my former radio industry was continuing to grow. And truthfully, I have a ton to thank to a gentleman by the name of Josh Goodman. And Josh is with Atlas and an incredible talent on his own. And he and I cut our chops together in radio many, many, many moons ago in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh was the one that said, dude, you could kill it in this industry. You could be the next so-and-so. And I was like, no. And you know, and so what I take away from that is that a lot of times we try not to listen to the people that are around us.
Yeah.
You know, which is silly because the people that are around you are the ones that most of the time, and all they're trying to get out of you is for you to do the same.
Well, that shows you're humble then. That shows you're a humble person, because most that are humble, you know, they kind of stay in their lane. They don't let things get to them. They want to get, you know, be successful, grow with the business, but they don't let it overtake them with ego. And that's a problem with some people in voiceover. You can tell they let their ego get in the way, and that can destroy them in the business. You know what I mean? And people like yourself that are just so humble and excited to do the next big thing. You know, when you first got into this, you know, you're a successful coach as well. What was it like finding a coach that fit you? What, you know, who was it? And how did you know this is somebody that's going to help build my business?
That's a great question. And I don't know if I ever really found that person, you know, because I think that everybody comes into your life, you know, they say friends for life. I think coaches for life is kind of like for a season or for a reason. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think coaches, they are what we are to creatives, a tool. Right. And so I've worked with some incredible coaches, from Maurice Tobias to David Lyerly to Harry Dunn, the list just keeps going on. Mm-hmm. But, you know, like I worked with each one of them for different reasons, you know, and you take what you can from each one of them. And, you know, it's like I would still be coaching with Harry Dunn today because I absolutely love Harry. But the truth is, in the last couple of years, the amount of opportunities that are coming out in the promo world for 52-year-old white guys like me, mm-hmm. Is not that great. So for me, I had to step away from Harry for just a little bit because, you know, I don't want to say that I'm always learning with him. Always. Sure. Okay, always learning, but the opportunities weren't there, so it didn't really make sense. But I would say that he's the coach that I've worked with the longest, for sure.
Absolutely. You see, and that's always good to hear, because, you know, I just started coaching myself, and I always look out to people like yourself and to other coaches, you know, to make myself a successful voice actor, but a successful coach, to teach what I've learned in the past and how, you know, what direction I'm going. And I want to give you a shout out for your TikTok. I noticed you're on TikTok. I started following you on there, and you made some great pointers like pay to plays. Everybody thinks it's just you get on there, you're gonna make $1 million, or they're like
Does anybody really think that?
Yeah, you would not believe, between the people the group that I speak with and people that reach out, the questions are, how do I get into voice acting? I have a good voice. I can be a voice actor. You know, I thought about being a voice actor. There's all the same, you know, cliche questions. Yeah. But the thing that they're more upset about, that I saw on your TikTok, is they pay the premium prices and they expect they do all these auditions, and they get nothing back. And it's a numbers game, right? And you gave some great feedback. It's not just how many you do, it's how you deliver your voice over. I mean, you're competing against all these other people. What would you say to those that just can't get it through their head that it's not about just how many auditions you do a day?
That's a great question. I mean, so because you're speaking about two different worlds, right? Right. So I believe there is the pay to play world, and then there is the other world of work that's being either created by yourself or somebody on your team. Mm-hmm. And in both worlds, it is a numbers game. Mm-hmm. It is about how many times you're able to audition, you know, because, you know, most people, it's going to take 100 auditions to book something. Mm-hmm. You know, Some people are better at that. Some people go every 30 or 40 or whatever, but it is at the end of the day a numbers game. But with pay to plays, it's not just a numbers game, it's a time game. Because the numbers are, if you don't get your audition, if you're not within the first 20 or 30 or maybe 40, that are in, nobody's listening to that. Nobody has time for that. If you're on a freaking pay to play, it's because you don't have time.
Right. My gosh, that's great. That's some great feedback because, people like yourself who have their brand and then, they want to build their brand and not focus on building pay to plays brands. What is some good marketing tips for us voice actors to keep us on our brand instead of focusing on pay to plays and just send out some marketing for you? What would you say to some of your students that want to build their brand instead of just, focus on pay to plays all day?
So here we go. Ryder's going to say something shocking. Ready for this?
Ready.
Brand is bullshit.
Okay.
And I feel like there is a false pedestal that exists on somehow trying to create a brand. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the performance, how you sound. Did you connect with the writer? Do you bring the performance that they were hoping to hear? That's what matters.
Right.
I
like it.
Brand, I always look at as sort of being a secondary thing, as sort of like a top of mind awareness, so that, 2 years from now, after somebody's worked with you, Curt, they're like, who is that dude that we did that project with? And hopefully your brand was just enough for them to remember.
Okay.
And so to me, I don't look at branding as a way to get business. I look at it as a way to keep business.
I like it. See, and things like that we need to hear too, because they're like you said, there's people who believe this and believe that. I think that makes the most sense because at the end of the day, it is how you sold that voiceover, how you did that, and how successful that audition was. What was your first big promo you did that you can look back and remember, like the going into the studio or recording at home in your own booth? What was that one you want to talk about?
That's funny. That's like asking like Kurt Cobain what his favorite song was, or what his first song was. I don't know. I honestly literally don't remember because, man.
Like one that you stuck out, you got that audition, you won. You're like, oh my gosh, this one I will never forget because you hit it. And it was just something that, some auditions you do and you got it. You just know I got it.
Well, what's funny is that there will be times like this just happened a week ago. Where I get an audition from my New York agent and I respond with the audition and I just write, let's book this.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
that you are, or your performance or your delivery was exactly what they're looking for, And so, that happens every now and then where you just know it's yours.
So what do you do when you get that script? What's the first thing you do? Because, I'm always interested in promo work for those to get that. Because, some scripts will have long, reads. Some might have real, like maybe 10 words. When you look at that script, what do you do? Do you like sit there and you marinate over that for a little bit? Or you just know, no, this is the way it's going to go?
Well, I think the most important thing when looking at promo first is just identifying your role. Yeah. Okay. Who are you in this? Right? Because if you identify that incorrectly, you're not booking the gig. And what I mean by that is, are you the star or are you the supporting cast? There's some promos where absolutely hands down, you're the star of the promo, and you can tell by the way it's written and you can tell by what's around you.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where, all the stuff that's around you, you're just trying to push that story along. And if you try to be too shiny, if you try to be too, hey, look at me, look at how talented I am, I'm going to do this and do that.
Yeah.
That's too much. You've overworked it. And I will say this, if there is a theme that I have taken away from every coach that I've worked with in my entire career, it's that we all work too hard because we feel like there is like some sort of mystical thing that needs to be done in the moment.
Yeah.
When really, at the end of the day, we're just telling a story. So we don't really need to work that hard all the time.
So do you have a work-life balance for yourself? Like, here's the hours I work, or are you always?
Well, no. I mean, let me go back. When I say work, I mean work the copy.
Oh, okay.
You don't need to work the copy so hard.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
read the words, just tell the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, stop
Absolutely.
trying to be like, hey, listen to me.
That is true. So let's talk about the new role. I'm in love with the show Obi-Wan Kenobi. So when you got that audition, or if they sent it to you, what was that feeling like? It was handed to you. I mean, are you a big Star Wars fan? Were you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm gonna voice this promo? I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I ain't gonna lie. I absolutely geeked out
yeah.
because when the first one came out in the mid '70s, I was just a babe, and Star Wars scared the living bejesus out of me. And I grew up playing with the toys and collecting the trading cards, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I grew up, uh, you know,
Yeah.
but it was still a part of my DNA. So when the opportunity came up to do it, it was one of those ones where you have a choice. Okay. You have a choice every time you step to the microphone, and it is, I'm really going to try hard, or I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what I do and let it go.
Yeah.
And that's what I did on Obi-Wan Kenobi. I just literally I was like, the thing is, the trend in promo is that promo sounds a lot more like trailer these days.
Okay.
Especially for the big marquee shows. The biggest of big shows, the promos don't sound like traditional, like, comedic promos, or dramatic promos. They sound more like trailer. And so that's, I just, I approached it from that angle and threw it out and just said, I'm not working too hard at this, because
Right.
I at that point in time, I knew that audition was going out to every big agency and every big manager.
Wow.
So when we booked it, and when I say we, I mean my team at ACM Talent, that was a huge win for us, a gigantic win for us, because, we took that away from the biggest of management companies and the other, our competition, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge win, because there were some big guys that were in, they usually narrow it down to like 5 or 6,
Yeah.
and you kind of get an idea of who those 5 or 6 are.
Right.
Word gets around. And then when we finally booked it, I was like geeked for days. Geeked for days. Just to see, there's this very wickedly humbling feeling when you've beat out somebody who was your idol.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening more and more these days for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's freaking me out. You know
That's
what I mean?
awesome, though.
It's freaking me out, because I know that everyone out there listening to the podcast right now is coming to do the same thing for me.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Absolutely. But you know what? This is like, everybody is so supportive of one another. There are some that do, backstab, of course, but everybody seems so supported. Like, listening to, when I interview people like you guys on the show, I get so excited to hear the stories and what that was like to get that gig, because, there's some people who just don't know still what they want to do. If they want to do promo, if they want to do stick with commercials and everything. And you have that set voice, like I said earlier, that we know that we're going to see you like when we go back to the movies again, because the movie theaters are opening back up. So you're going to hear those coming soon trailers, and you're going to be sitting there and sitting next to somebody who doesn't realize that's this guy right next to me, his voice. I mean, that in itself, it's like a craft and a dream that you're going to be able to sit there. And I think that's so cool. My next thing is, so you, as a coach, what are some tips to those voice actors? Of course, we see some of those on TikTok and social media, do's and don'ts as a voice actor, that I guess things the voice actors need to stop doing if they want to be successful, because there's a lot of things, people say, do what you want, stay, I'm not going to judge you, but what are some things you see on social media that you would like to see stop?
I would like to see everybody with a microphone who's had one for 3 weeks stop pretending that they're an expert.
I love it. I love that.
Because here's the thing. Everybody knows how long you've been around.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody knows whether or not you've cut your teeth or not. And it just makes you look silly.
Right.
If all of a sudden you're pretending to be an expert in a field that which you've only been in for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like a pet peeve of mine when it comes down to social media. It's like, hey, dude, just like accept the fact that you've started something new and embrace that.
Yeah.
Don't try and come at it from this like sort of fake expert state of mind, because everybody sees right through that BS.
Yeah. It's good pointers. And like, can you? I don't know if you recently did. It was a good pointer. I like microphones. I've had the same microphone since 2001. It's a gold, and I noticed you. I saw your post with your microphone. You brought the old school one back. I still have my MXL Gold M75 when I was in radio. Still have it in my studio. Still use it for certain projects. I love how you said, quit trying to keep buying new microphones, new this, new that. That doesn't get you the job. Your voice gets you the job.
Well, it's not even really your voice, it's your performance.
Yeah, you're an actor. You're an actor in this.
It's the choices that you make about the script and then perform with those choices. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's like, I'm going to age myself out now from anybody who's not 50 years old, but Jimmy Connors was one of the greatest tennis players of my youth, right? In the 80s and late 70s and 80s. And I remember somebody saying, because Jimmy Connors used to play with this crappy tennis racket. It was called like the Wilson T3000 or something like that. It was made out of steel, like the exact opposite of what everybody else was playing with, right? But he would kill you with that because it wasn't about the racket. It was about the game that he brought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, I will say, so initially your question was about do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And I would say this, treat this like it's a business. Okay. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. And so what I mean by that is, gear is important. And, you should make consistent quarterly investments into yourself, whether it be through coaching and training or whether it be through gear, because it's like a lot of people are like, I'm a voiceover guy now. I got a $200 mic and a $100 interface. Well, guess what? If McDonald's tried to start a location with that same attitude, would you want to eat there?
Yeah. That's awesome.
No, you wouldn't, because it'd be like, oh my God,
no, I'm saying that's an awesome
is...
remark. That's an awesome remark. Yeah, I love that. That makes sense. That's great.
So, I mean, like recognize that that's what this is. This is a business.
Yeah.
Right. So, you've got to treat it as such. And I see so many people on social media treating it like it's a game, like it's, social media is only something that you should be relying on. It's too much. Let me just say this. It's a distraction.
Okay.
Is really what it is. I love the mantra of action changes things. ACT, action changes things. Right.
Right.
So think about your actions, from the perspective of being a business owner.
Yeah. Does
spending 2.5 hours a day creating content for your social media really, in the end, have any ROI except for some ego points? If the answer is no, then you need to be reinvesting that time in yourself, into becoming a better performer,
I love hearing that, because I am guilty of that sometimes I spend way too much time trying to build content because I'm thinking, what's my next move going to be? And that's good things to hear, because there's Aaron Bradley I recently talked to. He only does LinkedIn. He doesn't do any other social media. He's very successful. Some people choose not to do that because it is a distraction. So love those pointers.
Know what it's for. Okay.
Yeah.
Like people see me on social media, they're like, oh, you're still good at it. You're still good at what you do. Like, well, yeah, but it's because I've been doing it forever, because it was part of my previous career in radio.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't do it for anything more than, ready for this, top of mind awareness with my clients. My goal when I get into any commercial session or promo session with somebody that I've never worked with before is to create so much of a relationship that by the time we're done speaking, I can comfortably reach out to those people on social media and connect with them, so that for the next 10 years of our lives, or however they stay on it, they're constantly being reminded of stuff that I'm doing, what's happening in my life. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten into a session with somebody that I haven't worked with in a year or whatever. They're like, oh my God, I just saw you got a new horse. That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
That horse is beautiful. That's why you have social media.
Yeah.
for for no other reason unless your ego just needs it.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense. And sometimes with TikTok, I find myself doing more shenanigans more than anything nowadays, because it's like, duets and stitches. Like I just have a blast with that. Some people are like, man, that was crazy. Well, now it's time to have some fun. It's called the Audition Challenge. I wrote you a fun script that I sent to your chat, and we're going to break out the promo voice. And I wrote a copy just for you, and it would be something your TV show would be something for your TV show coming out. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and let her rip.
For my TV show. For those of you that don't know, I actually literally do have a TV show in the works. It has nothing to do with cooking, but I see in this script, I am now a celebrity chef. That's cool. I'm an actor. Here we go. Coming this summer to Ryder TV, we go into the mind of Mark Ryder, voice actor and celebrity chef. Mark teaches celebrities how to cook while narrating in voiceover.
Yeah, that was awesome. See, that would be very cool. You could sit there and cook, like Hell's Kitchen, and then start how to cook in your voice. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
So the actual show Riders Rescues, believe it or not, is sort of like that, where in the fact that we're here in my studio and I'm doing what I do, and we segue from my booth and my life into real life stories of animal rescues from all over the world.
That is awesome. And
so hoping for release in that early 2023.
Oh my gosh. Well, everybody look out for that. And I'll be sure, if you have a link, I'll put that on inside the website here. And my last question is my cliche question. For all those voice actors that are getting into this and they're serious, what advice to them would you give them getting into this industry?
Here's the honest answer that just comes right to the top of my head instantly. And that is, come at it from a place of knowing as a place to guessing, right? There's too much guesswork in this industry. And I hear people all the time, people will write me, they're like, hey, I want to break into promo. Can you tell me how to break into promo? Well, what that tells me is that you don't understand how it works. Okay. So understand how it works. This is like voiceover is like an octopus with 8, 10, 12 different tentacles. And you have to understand how every single one of those tentacles work, right? In order for you to become successful in one of them. And the goal is, going back to what we said a minute ago about treating it as if it's a business. If in fact it's a business, well, a business doesn't just survive on one thing. It has many different facets to it. So you've got to excel in many different genres of voiceover to really have a successful career. So to answer your question in a long roundabout way, get with somebody, get with a coach who has been there, who knows how to do it, who can answer all of your questions, so that you're not just, like on some dumb Facebook group, going through previous threads to get answers to questions that you don't even know whether or not the answer is right or not. Come at it from a place of truth. That would be my biggest advice, because otherwise you're just spinning your wheels and wasting your time.
I love it. So where can we find you? I know we talk about social media. Where can we find you on social media? How could one book you for a job? How can we find you on the World Wide Web?
Well, if you're coming to me for coaching, you can go to volifecoach.com. And I work with anybody from somebody who's just beginning to seasoned veteran talent every single day. And I do it because I love it, because it keeps my passion levels at the level that which they need to be for me to compete at the level that which I need to compete at. Right. So you can catch me there. My actual website is ridervo.com. And on the socials, I actually have to use a first name, although I would prefer not to. It is Mark Ryder. So find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram at ridervos.
I love it. It's an honor to have you on here. I know you're super busy. Thanks for your time. Just keep it up, man. I mean, it's just so cool seeing you rise to the top. Like I said, every time I watch Kenobi every Wednesday, and every time I see the promo, I'm like, dude, this is just insane.
You're making me feel bad now because I'm waiting for it all to be done. I cannot wait week after week after week. I'm waiting for it to all be done, and then I'll watch it all. I'll binge watch it with a giant tub of popcorn.
All I got to say is episode 2 was insane. And that's all I can say. I've done 4, but I after this, I got to watch Stranger Things. I'm a big Stranger Things guy.
I'm right in the middle of that right now.
That one looks,
cow.
The first episode blew my mind. I was like, I'm not going to say what happened, but that end of that one was like, okay, I got to watch this one.
Well, they did what they had to do with this season. They took it to a whole nother dimension.
Yeah, finally. Well, Mark Ryder, thanks for your time. Thanks for all you do. And thanks so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast.
My pleasure, Curt. Have a good one, everybody.
For more information about Ryder or to book him for a project, go to rydervo.com.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.